Here we are. Here we are, boys. Here we are. Here we are, boys, with episode 75. With episode 75. With episode 75 of Come Shorty Boy. Here we are, boys, with episode 75 of Come Shorty Boy. And before we get into it, guys, I gotta reiterate this every stream. I have to reiterate this every stream. Every time I do one of these, I have to reiterate this. If at any point in the stream y'all hear me stuttering or tripping over my words, I've got a speech impediment. That's why I stutter. That's why I trip over my words. Anyways, let's get the promotional stuff out of the way. Let's get the promotional stuff out of the way, and then we can get into it. So y'all get the boxing stream at the end of this month. Excuse me. So you'll get the boxing stream at the end of this month. I'll talk about all the greats. I'll talk about Tyson. I'll talk about Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, etc., etc. I'll talk about all the greats at the end of the month. So, and also, guys, I'm still working on the White Knight, on Ogre's 8, on the Dragon King trilogy, and the broader world of Avaloria. I'm still building all that. And I'm still working on Gunblade. I'm still working on the Samurai and Gunslinger. So I'm still working on all that, guys. Now we can get into it. So, what are we going to talk about, baby? What do y'all want to talk about? Because we can talk about anything, guys. We can talk about comic books, anime, manga, history, mythology, philosophy, psychology, ancient and old stories. I mean, we can talk about a lot, guys. If y'all want to know what the channel is about, then just go look at the channel. If you want to know what the channel is about, just go look at it. I've got everything organized in playlists now. And no, my dear viewer, I am a retired gamer. I do not play video games anymore. No, my gaming days are long behind me. Long behind me. So, I'm done with gaming, guys. I do not play video games anymore. Now, I just seek for deeper truth and knowledge, guys. I'm a storyteller. I'm a reader and writer. That's what I love doing. If y'all look at the channel in the description, anime, manga, comic books, history, mythology, philosophy, psychology, ancient and old stories, guys. I'm a reader and writer. That's alright. Yes, guys. Your boy loves. I'm sorry, guys. Your boy loves storytelling. I've read. Let me just list off some of the books I've read, right? Because I love storytelling. I'm a huge fan of J.R.R. Tolkien and The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion. The Silmarillion is freaking brilliant. C.S. Lewis is also very good. I love the Narnia franchise. Narnia, The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe is phenomenal. The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe are phenomenal. Or is a phenomenal. Rather, I don't get into politics, guys. I do not get into politics. I stay as far away from that as possible. Here we just talk about anime, manga, comic books, history, mythology, philosophy, psychology. Like I said, guys, pure knowledge. That is what I'm after. I love the study of wisdom. I love the study of the mind. I love nerdy stuff as well. Like for example, guys, I wanted to start this stream off by talking about Watchmen because I talked about it a few days ago. Like I talked about three of Alan Moore's books: Watchmen, is number one, of which Watchmen, in my opinion, is the greatest comic book ever written. I talked about V for Vendetta, and I talked about The Killing Joke. I talked about those three comic books, guys, and if you don't mind, I'd like to go back to Watchmen and actually analyze it further. Because when you actually think about it, guys, it is the greatest comic book ever written. It is the most realistic deconstruction and dissection of the superhero genre I've ever seen. Because these boys, these heroes, are not superpowered. They have no powers, which is very, very interesting. Like, it's just super, super interesting, guys. Rorschach, Night Owl, the Silk Spectre, the Comedian. None of these guys have powers. None of them have powers. Ozymandias, no powers. Although it could be argued that, well, Ozymandias, Adrian Weiss, is the smartest man on Earth. He's a lot like Reed Richards in that way of the Fantastic Four. Even though Watchmen has no connection to DC or Marvel, at least not originally, right? At least not originally. Originally, Watchmen hit with its own thing, hit with its own group of superheroes. Hit before the Doomsday Clock, hit before DC's Doomsday Clock, of which that storyline integrated all of the Watchmen characters into DC. All that stuff was very, very interesting and very, very just cool in my opinion. Now, there's two characters I want to talk about in particular here when it comes to Watchmen. Dr. Manhattan and Rorschach. Now, Rorschach is a very, very interesting person. Walter Kovacs is super, super interesting because his morality, his values are black and white, good and evil. It's very, very interesting here because if you do not want spoilers if you're Watchmen, do not watch any further, guys, because I'm going to go into detail here. I'm going to go into detail here, guys. I'm going to go into detail about Watchmen. I'm going to go further into it from now on. Or for the rest of the stream. Or at least I'm going to try to. Given my limited amount of speech. And given my speech impediment and my stuttering problem. I'm going to go as deep into it as I can. So, Alan Moore's Watchmen deconstructs the superhero genre in a fantastic way. These are not good people. Well, they're people trying to do the right thing. Well, not actually, no. I'm wrong about that. These people are, well, some of them are trying to do the right thing, others aren't, like, like, like the comedian. Hey, the comedian, Eddie Blake, is a scumbag. He's a horrible human being. He was in it for the glory. Meanwhile, Rorschach, he had a traumatic childhood, and certain situations made him into the man he is today. He got his Rorschach mask from a woman who ordered a dress, and when she got the dress, she found it hideous. But Walter found it beautiful, and therefore he cut the dress down and made it into his mask. And Rorschach's morality, he used to spare criminals. Hey, but after one horrible isolated incident, he did not hold back anymore. And he killed violently and and viciously, guys. Walter Kovacs is a fascinating, fascinating case. Like, Rorschach is an interesting character because he is human. He sees morality as black and white. And when people beg him, and when the scum, muck, and filth beg me to spare their lives, and when the scum and filth and these wretched people beg me to spare them, I will look them dead in the eye and say no. Rorschach is such a fascinating character that way. He believes, I don't think he believes in redemption. I think he believes in right and wrong. And those that do wrong are justly punished. Like, it's just super, super interesting, guys. And I haven't even gotten to John Osterman yet. I haven't even gotten to the only character with superpowers in the actual comic book, in the actual film itself, of which Watchmen was adapted. Watchmen was adapted by Zack Snyder, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, guys. Please do. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. I believe Watchmen, it was adapted finally into a film in 2009 by Zack Snyder. I could be wrong about that, but I think I'm right. I could be wrong though. But yeah, I believe Zack Snyder finally turned it into a film in 2009. And I believe the film doesn't do the story justice, because I can see there's problems with the film. I can see there's problems and issues with the film, but to me, the comic book itself, the actual source material of Watchmen, very, very engaging. The art by Dave Gibbons and Alan Moore's writing is phenomenal. Okay, now let's actually get into Dr. Manhattan. Watchmen. Watchmen. We're talking about Watchmen, the actual source material, though. We're talking about the graphic novel slash comic, not the adaptation, not the film. I believe the film didn't do it justice. Now, even though yes, the film uses, or I believe Zach used the panels of the comic book as storyboards, and I believe that is a brilliant idea to use the actual like comic book as like paneling and all that for the film. But I'll get into my problems here with the film towards the end of the stream. But for now, let's just stick to the actual source material. So John Osterman is a clockmaker. He's not a clockmaker. My mistake. He's not a clockmaker. He's a watchmaker. He's a craftsman. He makes watches basically, and he learns all the shifts and all the gears and where they go and all that, and how to reverse and forward it. Like, and then he meets a girl, and he falls in love with her, and he was actually introduced to her through a mutual friend. They fall in love, and and he leaves his watch in a not a particle accelerator, but in some type of device, guys. I'm not very scientific minded, so I couldn't tell you the exact machine or the exact, what's the word I'm looking for here, guys. I couldn't tell you what type of like, not machine, but there's a word I'm looking for and I can't think of it at the moment. There's some type of what's the word I'm looking for? Not structure. Hey, there's some type of mechanism, I guess, that he steps into. I'm sorry, guys. I couldn't come up here with the right wording, of which is a problem on my part, and I do admit that, and I am sorry. But yeah, he steps into this device by accident. He left his watch inside of it, and he goes to retrieve it. They turn on the machine or the device, and it completely destroys him, atomizes him even. John Osterman is not dead, he's unmade. He doesn't exist anymore. Hey, but then, over the course of days and weeks, he reconstructs himself. Also, a funeral is held. A funeral is held for him. Hey, but there's no body to bury. There's no actual body to bury. There's nothing left of him. It's fascinating, guys. It is truly, truly fascinating. And there's only a singular picture of him in the entire world, of which his girlfriend, I can't remember her name. I cannot remember her name, but she has the only picture of him left. And over the course of days and weeks, something incredible happens. He reconstructs his body. He reconstructs not his body, he constructs a body. He constructs a body for himself over the days and weeks to come. It is a very, very fascinating thought. It's a very, very fascinating story, guys. So, he's basically a god. He's basically God now. And he's got all this incredible power. Like, he can just blink and you're dead. He can just do this. He can just blink and you're gone. Hey, with the wave of his hand, he can bring down an entire civilization. It's very, very interesting, of which he started out as a human and the accident made him more. It made him into a god. It made him into a supernatural force, of which at this point nothing can stop him. At this point, nothing can stop Dr. Manhattan, of which John initially gets the name from the Manhattan Project. If y'all didn't know that, I think that's obvious though, right? I think that's fairly obvious though. Like, Dr. Manhattan clearly gets the name because of the Manhattan Project in New York. So that's obvious, and I'm gonna just leave that alone because let's get back to it. This is always the issue here with the stream, guys. There's always a few issues here with the stream. One, my stuttering problem, of which can't be helped. And two, I can never stay on topic. So before I forget, let's go back to Watchmen and Dr. Manhattan. So, John is now this godlike being, and he promises his girlfriend to be with her for eternity. Hey, but there's a problem with that. He now exists outside of time. Dr. Manhattan now exists outside of time. So He's just this all-knowing, nigh omnipotent being. And he falls in love with with the new Silk Spectre, Lori Blake. Now that's a spoiler, guys. If y'all didn't catch that, I just spoiled a minor detail. The comedian who basically set this entire story in motion by dying, because, spoiler alert, Adrian Weiss, Ozymandias, kills him. Guys, I'm gonna say this right now, if y'all haven't read Watchmen or at least watched the horrible film adaptation, just go watch the film or go read the comic book. I would suggest the latter, because in the comic and the source material is 1,000 times better than the film, in my opinion. Do not get me wrong, there are aspects of the film I like, but I just really rather just stick to the source material if that's okay. But yeah, long story short, the comedian's death, Eddie's death, is what kicks off this entire storyline. Because Adrian Weiss, Ozymandias, pushes him or kicks him through a window, and he falls to his death, kicking off the entire story. So, back to Dr. Manhattan. He's now a god, and he's slowly but surely, over the course of, I believe, over the course of days, weeks, months, possibly years, I don't know. I think months though. So, over the course of time, he becomes detached and annoyed with humanity because he's beyond that now. And the question is, can he still be human if he has all this power? If he exists outside of time, how can he understand what it means to be human? You can't. He can't. And here's the brilliance of it, guys. Here's the brilliance of this comic book, in my opinion. It is the most realistic depiction of superheroes, but it's also, in my opinion, the most realistic depiction of a godlike being living among us. Like, okay, like, let's say Clark Kent. Okay, let's say Clark Kent, aka Superman, actually lived among us. It's basically the question. It's basically the question, like it's basically this question. It's not a question. I should stop saying that. It's not a question. It's more so like, if God lived among us, what would he actually be like? If this all-powerful being lived among us, how would he act? And what would be well, there wouldn't be any there wouldn't be any limitations, guys. He would have no limits. Therefore, would he actually understand us humans? Which is a fascinating prospect. Now, I'm not going to get into religious or theological debates here, because I'd rather just stick with the concept for Watchmen. I would rather just stick with the concept or the I would rather just stick with Watchmen and continue talking about why this comic book, to me, is the greatest comic book ever written. Because, like, it just simply put is. I mean, Watchmen is a phenomenal story. like I love Alan Moore's idea of this godlike being, right? Dr. Manhattan slowly but surely loses his attachment to humanity, and it's very, very intriguing, guys. It's very, very interesting to see all this unfold. And yes, you may be questioning, my dear viewer, whoever's watching this right now, you may be asking yourself, how could you talk about a a almighty being, hey, with no limits, hey, without going into more deeper philosophical and theological discussions? It's not that it's not that it's not that I can't. It's just that I would like to stick here with the comic book. I would just like to stick here with the comic books. If for now, I would just like to stick with Watchmen. If for now, if if y'all ever want me, if y'all ever want me to go into that stuff, I will. Like I said, I love reading mythology, history, philosophy, and psychology stuff. I'm down for that. If y'all want that, just let me know. But, like, to me, Watchmen is a deconstruction of the superhero genre. Of which Dr. Manhattan, like I said, fascinating character. Hey, because to me, it is a realistic approach to it, right? This almighty godlike being, he becomes detached and almost emotionless, right? He So what happens in the actual comic book itself, right? Somebody is trying to take out these superheroes, quote unquote. Somebody is coming after us. Somebody is trying to take out the heroes that once protected the city or the world. And it's, spoiler alert, Adrian Weiss, Ozymandias, is the one behind all this. And really, like, the way I just I love the way Alan Moore puts it and the way he writes it. He, he I hate my speech impediment. God, I hate it. I I love the way Alan Moore writes his characters and brings up these arguments and all that. Like, also guys, if y'all haven't already, please go check out Thug Notes. That is where I got my love of reading from. That's where I got my love of reading from, is Thug Notes. And Thug Notes did a funny and humorous analysis of Watchmen. So please go check that out if you haven't. But either way, I mean, Dr. Manhattan is just such a fascinating character. Hey, because what happens in the book? John, quote unquote, John Osterman, aka Dr. Manhattan, quote unquote, dies, and he reconstructs himself from nothing. And eventually, he gains a new body. And he has this, and he has all this power, and it's very, very interesting, guys, because I can't seem to find the words, and that's annoying. Like, it's very, very interesting, guys, because Dr. Manhattan does all this stuff throughout the book. He dies and then he reconstructs himself, and then he goes and I believe he stops the Vietnam War, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, he stops a war. I'm not sure if it's the Vietnam War, but he stops a war. Dr. Manhattan does. And and then he does a couple of interviews. He lies to his wife or to his girlfriend, and he cheats on her with Lori Blake, aka the new Silk Spectre, and he eventually becomes detached from reality, and he tries to help Rorschach in his investigation of the comedian's death, but he can't because the future is blocked by some type of temporal interference. Like he can't see his future for some odd reason. And guys, this is worth noting, guys. This is worth noting. The entire book is very, very good. The entire book of Watchmen is great. But it starts out with Rorschach's journal. It starts out with Rorschach's journal entries and all that. And then it goes into all the other characters' dialogue, and then it has articles and letters and newspaper clippings, and it even has a comic within the comic book itself. That's right. That's right. Watchmen even has a comic within the actual comic called The Black Freighter. And the story is very, very interesting, and it's important to the story of Watchmen. Because the tale of the Black Freighter connects with what Ozymandias does at the end of the book. Because Ozymandias has this plan, right? Ozymandias has this plan for world peace. And I should have mentioned this a long time ago, guys. I should have mentioned this a long time ago in the stream, and I apologize for not doing so sooner. But Russia and America are essentially on the verge of World War III in the comic book. In Watchmen, guys, Russia and America are on the verge of World War III. But the only thing stopping Russia at the time, he was Dr. Manhattan. Of which, that's interesting. But once Dr. Manhattan leaves Earth and goes off to Mars to basically be alone and rid himself of the pest that are humans, and I know that's probably not the best way of wording it, but how else do you describe it to a godlike being like Dr. Manhattan? Like Watchmen is a very, very interesting book, guys. I love the comic book. It's so good. It's the best comic book ever written. Yes, my dear viewer, I've read the Bible. It's a good book. Anyways, back to Watchmen. So Dr. Manhattan has left Mars, or not Mars, has left Earth because humans are too complicated and too messy. He goes on this talk show. He goes on this talk show and does this interview type deal, And people claim that Dr. Manhattan causes cancer here because a friend of his, he was diagnosed with cancer and dies. And then and then his ex girlfriend eventually is diagnosed with cancer, hey, because people think, hey, the radiation coming off of him is what causes it initially. Hey, but they're wrong. He doesn't cause cancer. It's just a theory, right? And a stupid one at that. Well, is it a stupid theory? I don't know. It's just a theory. Like it's very very interesting, guys. It is very very interesting here. So eventually he gets uh, eventually after he's accused of that, of causing cancer and causing all these people to die, he is eventually swarmed by the press and asked very politely to be left alone. Hey, but they just keep on swarming him. Hey, when they do not stop, he says, and he doesn't say, he actually screams, "Leave me alone," and just poof, disappears to Mars. And then Russia can now uh, invade the United States and start World War III, hey, without Dr. Manhattan. Like, now guys, all this stuff is in a comic book. It's not real, it's just fiction. I'm just talking about it here because I like it. I'm just talking about comic books here because I like them. I wanted to talk about Watchmen tonight, and that is what I'm doing. That is what I'm doing. I'm talking about Alan Moore's Watchmen. So yeah, that's what I'm doing, guys. I'm talking about Watchmen by Alan Moore, or written by Alan Moore and drawn by Dave Gibbons, of which Dave Gibbons' art is okay. It's good. It's good. So yeah. So he's at he's now at Mars, and World War III it begins. It's very, very interesting, guys, because now that the Superman and now that the Ubermensch is basically gone, and that's right, I just used Nietzsche's ideas of the Superman or the or the Ubermensch, hey, because that's basically what Dr. Manhattan is. John is now a god. John Osterman, the watchmaker, is now is now basically a god. He exists outside of time. And it's very, very interesting now, because now that America doesn't have their indestructible god anymore, now Russia can invade. So Adrian Weiss, Ozymandias, he actually has a plan to stop this. Of which, coming up, guys, what I'm about to say here is probably the most ridiculous ending to a comic book I've ever heard of. Because for the most realistic depiction, for the most grounded and realistic comic book I've ever read, it ends in the most ridiculous way. So, Adrian Weiss, aka Ozymandias, is the smartest man in the world, and he comes up with the most ridiculous idea. He gets a bunch of scientists together and creates a giant alien squid-like monster, and it quote unquote invades Earth, and that makes peace. But there's consequences for this, guys. There's repercussions for this. So the squid kills. So the alien squid-like monster kills thousands upon thousands, possibly millions upon millions of people. But it saved the world, right? It saved the world. So Adrian Weiss's evil plan actually worked. It actually worked. All this stuff, all, all, this is one of the most, this is one of the most ridiculous villain schemes I've ever heard of. And it actually works. And by the time Dr. Manhattan goes to stop him, Adrian says, "It's too bad. It already happened 30 minutes ago." That's insane, guys. That's insane. He pulls it off. He pulls it off. But, there's still the hope of Rorschach. There's still the hope of Walter Kovacs. Now, Rorschach, if you do not remember me saying in the earlier portions of the stream, this entire story starts out here with the death of the comedian. This entire story is basically jump started here when Eddie Blake, aka the comedian, dies. That's what jump starts this entire story. Rorschach documents it though. Rorschach, aka Walter Kovacs, documents all this in his journal. He writes it down. He has a journal and he keeps track of everything. He keeps track of all the events throughout the comic book. It's very, very interesting, guys. It is very, very interesting. And Rorschach actually kept evidence, kept documents of Adrian's plans, and the Dr. Manhattan kills him to keep the secret a secret, to keep the secret safe. Hey, because at the end of the film, oh no, my bad. Not the film. Not the film. I repeat, not the film. At the end of the book, Rorschach kills. Why do I keep mixing up my thoughts? I say the opposite of what I want to say. I'm stupid. I hate myself. Okay, basically at the end of the film, Dr. Manhattan kills Rorschach. That's what I was trying to say, guys. Instead, I was going to say Rorschach kills Dr. Manhattan, but that is impossible. He cannot die. He is essentially God. He is essentially a god. He is above everything. Dr. Manhattan is this nigh omnipotent being. So at the end of the book, Dr. Manhattan just simply waves his hand and turns Rorschach into basically blood and guts and gore. He basically explodes him by a wave of his hand, and he dies. But here's what's even more interesting about this, right? Here's what's even more interesting about this. At the end of the book, Rorschach's journal, he delivered to a newspaper, to a Daily Planet type of location or some type of news place. And the last line in the book is, "We leave it in your hands." It is in your hands now. And the book closes on this, guys. It closes with the man in a green t-shirt, with the smiley face, with the signature smiley face, with the blood on it. So this man is holding Rorschach's journal, and he's wearing a green t-shirt with a bloody smiley face. It's in your hands now. That's what's at the end of the book. And as we close the book, we decide how it ends. Does the world find out they were saved by a lie? Or does Adrian's new world order, aka world peace, live on? It is a fascinating question, guys. It is a fascinating question. It is an interesting question. And then after everything is all said and done, guys, after everything is all said and done, guys, Adrian says, "Wait, John, hey, before you go, I did the right thing in the end. I did." And before John goes, before Dr. Manhattan leaves, Adrian, Adrian, sa- Adrian says this. "Wait, John, before you go, I did the right thing, didn't I? He, 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 in the end." Adrian says this. To John, "Wait, John, before you go, I did the right thing, didn't I? In the end." And then John responds, In the end, Adrian, nothing ever ends." Powerful words there. Powerful words. Of which there's some great parallels between certain characters in Watchmen and all that. These characters are so deep and so flawed and so human, besides Dr. Manhattan, of course. But all the other characters are so just complicated and complex. Now that's not to say, that Dr. Manhattan, that John Osterman is not complex, is not deep, and enriched with character. That's not what I'm saying here, because he is. John Osterman, aka Dr. Manhattan, is rich and rife with analysis. And that character, he deserves to be analyzed, dissected, and critiqued. But if y'all want me to do that, just let me know. But yeah, guys, Watchmen is a very good book. If I haven't rambled on enough already, about Watchmen, if I haven't sold y'all on the book yet, please, I implore you just to go read it. Don't even bother watching it. Go read it. Yes, it is a long comic book. Yes, I know people hate reading nowadays. But please, I implore you, if you take nothing else away from this stream, and yes, I know we're 49 minutes into this, and we haven't hit the hour mark yet, but please, if y'all don't take anything else, if y'all do not take anything else away from the stream, please, I implore you, go read Watchmen. Please. It is a good comic book. It is the greatest comic book ever written, in my opinion. In my opinion, it is the greatest comic book ever written. It even made it into the New York Times best 100 novels of all time. It made it into the top 100 greatest novels of all time ever written. That's how good this book was. Now, I believe Watchmen was written in the 1980s, I believe. Correct me on that if I'm wrong, please. I believe Watchmen was created in the 1980s. I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong about that though, guys. Please, correct me if I am wrong about that. Because I'm not sure about that. But if I haven't convinced y'all of that, if I haven't convinced y'all of Watchmen, then please, I implore y'all just to go check out his story. Go read his source material. Yes, okay, now I'll get into with the last 10 minutes, I'll get into the film. I'll get into the film adaptation by Zack Snyder in 2009. So, the comic book, as we have discussed this far, is brilliant. There's no more to be said on the actual source material that I haven't said already. So all that's left, I guess, is the film. So there's a few good things I can say about the film, right? There's a few good things I can say about the film. One, music choice. This film's soundtrack is phenomenal. It has good songs in it, like The Sound of Silence and Bob Dylan's Times Are Changing. It has a good soundtrack, and the characters are are portrayed well enough. Like, I really like the actor for for Rorschach. I really like who they casted as Rorschach, and the comedian and Silk Spectre, and all those characters. In other words, I liked the casting. It's all that's that's all fine. I enjoy the music and the casting of the film. That's not my issue here. His, and my issue is not the fact that the film used the actual comic book to basically make the film. Like like they used the comic book as a storyboard a, for the film. They used the comic book as storyboards for the film. That's fine. Although I think that presents a problem, right? If it's a one-to-one a creation, that means it's accurate. That means it is accurate to the actual source material itself. Hey, my dear viewer, I'm talking about Alan Moore's Watchmen once again. But yeah, back to the film. Because Watchmen it's a good book. It's a good source material. But my problem with the film is it's not the casting, it's not the music. Like I said, those two things are fine. And my problem isn't the fact that they used the actual comic book as storyboards to make the film. It's more accurate in that way. It's a whole lot more accurate that way. But that brings up a issue in my opinion. If it's a one-to-one recreation, if it's just the comic book in movie form, that's fine. Hey, but then what's the point of actually making the movie almost? I mean, for diehard fans like myself, I'd still I'd still I'd still watch it. But my main problem here with the film is this. So in the actual Watchmen comic book, in the source material written by Alan Moore and drawn by Dave Gibbons, the cast of characters or the superhero group is basically portrayed as superheroes, yes, but they're portrayed as flawed humans, kind of pathetic, kind of meek, kind of stupid. And I liked that, right? I enjoyed that. They were flawed people in the source material. In the comic book, they were flawed. They weren't really. They were. I don't want to say they were good people. I would say they were bad people trying to be good. Like, they were just people trying to do the right thing. At least some of them were. Like, Rorschach and Night Owl, they were legitimately trying to do the right thing. Hey, the comedian, he was not. Hey, the comedian, for all intents and purposes, is a-hole, is a scumbag. Now, Rorschach, he was legitimately trying to do good as well. And Dr. Manhattan, over time, he just became detached from humanity and just eventually got bored and restless and all that. My problem here with the film, or or the point I'm trying to make here, guys. Hey, the point I'm trying to make here, in the last 10 minutes, of the stream, is that in the source material, they were depicted as flawed but somewhat decent humans trying to do right. But they were seen as kind of sloppy and pathetic and meek and embarrassing. But in the film, it seems like Zack Snyder, he was trying to be cool and all actiony and portray them as legitimate superheroes, of which, let's be real, they are not. I mean, they're trying to be, but in the actual comic book, they were kind of failing. But they were trying to do good anyways. Like all the action scenes in Watchmen are cool and awesome, yes. But are they actually accurate to the source material? No. Because it seems like Zack Snyder kind of misunderstood the characters. And because we had, like, Night Owl and the Silk Spectre and all the characters like legitimately like beating up criminals and breaking bones and just being overall cool and stuff. I think he misunderstood the point of Watchmen. I think that's my main problem, right? Plus little tiny nitpicks here and there. But that's not really my problem here. My problem, I guess, what I'm trying to say, is my overall problem here with Watchmen was the characterization that Zack portrayed of the characters, or the characterization that Zack was trying to enforce on the characters. Now, that's just my opinion, guys. That's just my opinion. Who knows? This may be the worst review of Watchmen on YouTube. This very well may be the worst review of Watchmen on YouTube, and if that's the case, that's okay, because I was intending on talking about Watchmen, and that's what I did. but I was never actually planning on critiquing it and reviewing it as such. This was never supposed to be an actual review of the comic book or movie. But I digress. I digress. But yeah, guys, please, if y'all don't take anything away, if y'all don't take anything away from the stream, if y'all don't take anything away from the stream, if y'all do not take anything away from this stream, then just do yourself a favor and go check out Watchmen. Please, go check out Watchmen. Go read Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. Please, I implore you. I implore you, my dear viewer. I implore you, please go check out Watchmen, please, because it is the most realistic deconstruction of the superhero genre I've ever read or ever seen. Like, Alan Moore does such a fantastic job. Truly a fantastic job here with Watchmen. Plus, there's all these letters, news clippings, articles, and stories here within the comic book itself. I didn't even go into here because I got so caught up in trying to break down the characters of Rorschach and Dr. Manhattan and all that. And I'm sorry if this didn't live up to your expectations, guys. I didn't even bother breaking down Ozymandias or Adrian Weiss as his real name. I did not even bother breaking down Ozymandias, aka Adrian Weiss, or or Eddie Blake, aka the comedian, or Night Owl, or Silk Spectre, or any of them. And for that, I apologize. I just mainly wanted to focus on my two favorite characters, of which I guess does make this stream biased, and if that makes you angry or upset, I'm sorry. But those two characters are my two favorites of Watchmen, clearly, because I talked about them in depth here. So yeah, I think I'm done though. I think that's enough talking about Watchmen and all that. Anyways, guys, here we have hit the hour mark. Here we have hit that hour mark. So y'all know what to do. Like, share, and subscribe, turn on post notifications, turn on all post notifications. And with that, guys, I am outie. I love you guys. Wait, I didn't do the outro properly. So, we've hit the hour mark, and with that, guys, I am outie. I love you guys. Dang it. My brain can't do the outro for some reason. I'm so sorry. Excuse me. So, here we have hit the hour mark, guys. Here we have hit the hour mark. So, and with that, I'm outie. Y'all know what to do. Like, share, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications. Turn on all post notifications. So that we never miss. So that way he never miss a video, and you'll be notified whenever I upload. And with that, guys, I am outie. I love you guys, and thank you guys.